Hello, and welcome to Tech Money Diaries, our podcast where we talk about real tech, real money, and real life. And on today's episode, we have a jam-packed session for you. We're going to actually talk about our tech and AI segment, of which what's going on in tech and AI. We have our cyber alert section that's going to be discussing different trends in cybersecurity. We have our pay watch segment where we're going to talk about things that are on pay watch. And then last but not least, we're going to have our opportunities section just to give you some information about what's out there. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started into our first segment. So in tech and AI news, we want to first talk about our segment that's talking about the CEOs that are prioritizing AI. So by 2026, most people, especially CEOs, are going to be prioritizing and focusing on AI integration, leading to significant job cuts and a demand for skilled AI-powered users. So in our first segment, we're going to dive into how some CEOs are prioritizing AI. And just to let you know, this particular segment is just discussing how CEOs are currently paying attention to what AI is doing for their business and how they're adopting AI moving forward in 2026. Yeah, so some of the concerns with AI integration is that they have a lot of uncertainties that's making it kind of like for some of the CEOs. So they're facing, like, I would say they're really looking into it like, what is our next step here? And how can we move forward successfully? So leveraging AI is something that they have to do, and then they have to do it in a way where they understand where it's going, just not adopting it, but just understand where it's going and how it'll affect the business. So we already know that job cuts and things of that nature are a big concern for everyone, but they also want to make sure that they're not losing money and they're still on track for their financial results for the year or the quarter, should I say. And even though AI will be cutting jobs and there'll be more insight or research into to discover talent that actually has the skills and ability to help move AI forward. So, what some of the suggestions are alongside adding AI into the organization is the effects of what's going on, like in the economy. For example, like how is inflation and tariffs and things of that nature affecting what it is that's going on with AI adoption. Also, slow hiring is becoming a big concern as well. Not only layoffs, but and job cutting, but slow hiring. Looks like there have been some statistics regarding job cuts. And it's really interesting because this actual statistic is brought to you by resume.org. And they're basically saying that 3 in 10 respondents have already cut jobs because of AI. And then 37% they're expected to do so by the end of 2026. So that's a lot of jobs that'll be gone by the end of 2026. Even HR is chiming in, urging some of the people that are hiring into their companies just to make sure that they are balancing like advancing technology as well as making sure that they have employees that are able to do the work as well. Like with job cuts and AI integration, we know that AI is pretty much bringing new jobs around, or if it's not bringing new jobs around, it's definitely changing the job descriptions of what is around already. And they're actually anticipating rising labor costs and workforce costs for the next upcoming year, while they try to adapt AI, restructure, and things of that nature. And this is one thing that I find very important is that they are leaning more into hiring independent contractors, hiring gig workers, and hiring freelancers. So this is something that I definitely want to let you all know that this is why I push like getting yourself out there in the gig economy, going after different contracts, putting yourself out there, if you don't have a business, just starting out one where you can take on independent contract work. You don't have to be a business owner to work as a contractor, but it is something that you can look into to build your brand. But that is a very, very important thing to note that they're actually looking more into independent contractors and gig workers and freelancers to do their actual job roles. And that's a benefit for you, especially if you want to create more of a different type of lifestyle instead of a regular 9 to 5 where you're clocking in and clocking out. Usually, when you're a gig worker or freelancer, you're pretty much creating your own schedule. Even a gig worker, you're creating your own schedule, you're setting your own time and things of that nature. But time management is of the essence when you're doing that because if you don't work, you're not getting paid when it comes to being a contractor or gig worker or freelancer. One thing that they're saying that they're struggling with is finding talent. I actually am opposed to that view because there's a lot of talented people that's out there that's looking for jobs. I see posts on LinkedIn day in and day out of talented people. I don't think that they have a great pipeline in order to know how to discover talent because talent is most definitely out there. I think the way that people are discovering talent need to actually be improved to this day and age. Um, a lot of these platforms that are out there like that do take on gig workers. I think they have done enough advertising, done enough things of that nature to get more workers that are out there. I think the traditional things and ways of people to know about who's hiring where is just using the traditional methods of advertising. Now, this day and age, we have like people that are on Netflix, people on Tubi that are watching different things that are requiring ads for the most part. I know some you don't necessarily have to pay for, even watching YouTube. So maybe look into those avenues where people are spending tons of their time looking and watching videos and come up and put an ad on those websites where people can actually know about these opportunities because I don't think there's a lack of talent. I think there's a lack of how you discover talent. Also, training on the job. A lot of skills can be taught. If you don't know what it is that you're doing when you're on the job or looking at a different software that's coming into play, 9 times out of 10, you have to spend time learning that software. You don't necessarily have to have that knowledge to get or gain experience with the software. So gone with technology and AI just rapidly expanding, gone are the days where you're sitting back waiting on to find a candidate that has 10 years of experience in AI. AI just really jumped off in the last, I want to say 3 years. So to look for someone that has 8 to 10 years of experience is not really logically thinking because most of the world has really honed in on artificial intelligence within the last 3 years. Also, some things to note is these are types of things that you have to understand when you're building your workforce, when there are cuts, and when you really don't understand what it is that you need right now because you're adopting AI into your business. Going the gig worker route, the independent contractor, the freelancer, yes, that's a great thing to do. You just have to understand how you will manage the actual contractors that are working with you. And then you also have to understand the level of need there is in your business for the type of work that you will need with AI being integrated. So those are some things that CEOs are prioritizing now into 2026, which I think is a great thing. Next, we'll actually focus on what is a new state regulation. And in 2024, there is a new state regulation for AI. AI will enforce this. AI will do fairness. There will be transparency in hiring practices, ensuring there are more equitable job market. So recently there is a information that's out actually that's talking about regulating AI in the new year. And some things that HR needs to know. I think this is pretty important, especially for those in HR to kind of understand what's coming, what to look for in the new year, and how like artificial intelligence is being used at work. Nowadays, artificial intelligence is pretty much a way of life, a fact of life as at this point, especially for anybody that's in the workforce. It's kind of like if you haven't gotten used to it now, you might want to start getting used to it in those words. AI is actually being introduced into several different things and when it comes to AI, including performance, including recruiting, even including compensation. So this is where you have to think about how this actually plays into your business. Also, you have to think about legally how this plays into your business as well. Because some people may not be for AI. There may be some pushback. There may be some things that people are like, hey, this isn't doing what it's supposed to do for me. And I don't think it's wrong of them to think that way. Everybody doesn't like how things grow and progress in life, but they have to learn how to deal with it. One thing I can say is that there are even things out there for major recruiting software that's legal battles with that. And people that are like responsible for regulating this are actually trying to keep up with what's going on between employers and between like what's happening with employees or potential employees and things of that nature. What they're trying to do now is put like a kind of like a action plan into the whole AI efforts. They're doing where they're introducing different executive orders, mandates, and things that employers have to do. And even like talking about how AI is related to their actual layoffs. There's also contention on how how has it affected us pretty much in life, whether it's on the state level, government level, however you want to actually view it. There's different effects of this on people. So there's been a lot of talks around how it's being done, if it's being done fairly, and things of that nature. Since it's so much of a contention between AI, state laws, and things of that nature, even the federal government, so you have to be on alert with what the future actually holds for this, because there has to be some type of governance where the government is making sure that they're taking into consideration all sides. There's different requirements that has to be adapted to, and that's not only with employers, but employees have to understand that as well. They're trying to make sure that this like safer use when you're doing AI in any capacity in the job, whether it's getting the job or where it's reviewing candidates. And there has been some concerns that have been raised for safety, so that's definitely something that's been looked into. For the most part, it's like when it comes to AI, you have to understand how it's being used, for what different types of things it's being used, and if there's some type of risk on it when they're using it. Now, you do have to take in consideration, whenever you're integrating AI into your business, often there has to be some type of training. There has to be some type of governance where they're auditing these things. And they have to also keep the people that this information is affecting informed. So the applicants and the employees when it's time. Since it is involving, HR does have to remain being able to understand that this is ever changing until there's something that's really out there in black and white. So I would say this is pretty much a message of keep learning what regulations are out there for AI, keep making sure that you're using it fairly and transparent in the hiring process to ensure that no one is actually losing out on jobs and earning an income because of these things. I think it's really important to hone in on what the regulations will be for AI so that it won't actually hinder people that are out there in the job search. Now we're going to move on to OpenAI. So, OpenAI has actually reported that employees utilizing AI tools can achieve 6 times more greater productivity. That is a huge increase in productivity. And with that being said, AI is available for everyone out there these days. So if you're curious about using it, if you don't understand using it, just go to the application, open it up, and just start playing around. That's the best way that I can tell you to. Productivity is something that employees or employers, should I say, are actually trying to make sure that their companies are more productive, as well as they're trying to raise their bottom line. Like they're trying to save more money than they can save, they have been saving. So with employees being able to increase their productivity 6 times, so you have to understand also, like if one employee is able to increase their productivity 6 times, that means that there is no longer a need for, if it's 5 people doing the job. If one employee can achieve 6 times productivity, that means that 9 times out of 10, them other 4 people may not even be needed. And then as far as some statistics on that, some are saying that coding related messages are being sent 17 times as many as their peers. That's in that field, like data analyst and even the data analyst tools are being used like 16 more times than in the past. This is pretty much it's telling you how much improvement can be seen whenever you're using AI. So, with that type of improvement, that means that you're reshaping who are the amount of people that you'll need just to complete a project. Also, you have to take in consideration like who will get left behind because if you're increasing productivity 6 times, somebody's going to slip and not be on it, and they're going to be left behind because of that. So that means that you have to make sure that you're implementing some type of skill-based training that's mandatory in the job. I'm not saying like waste time on making them upgrade their skills because you're either include that as something that's mandatory so that you don't have to continue to look outside for talent. Otherwise, then the talent will be short. And then you have to keep in mind everyone has access to a lot of these tools because they're free, but not everyone is using them. But so making them as like a requirement or something that's mandatory in their learning and development path at work, how you have trainings that they have to do every quarter, every year, implement that into their learning and development. And then they're just talking about how some employees that are just experimenting just to see how it goes, they're saving more time just by doing that, just like curiosity. And then whenever you have artificial intelligence involved, just think about some of the projects that you could not perform because you just didn't either have the skill set to do or you just didn't know what steps to take next because you could not find the right resource to get you to that next step. But they're saying that 75% of workers that have been surveyed are reporting that they're able to complete more tasks that they couldn't do, including programming, automation, even technical troubleshooting. So just think about how they're embracing their newfound skill set. And this is looks like OpenAI is actually the one who actually brought out these statistics. But that is the gist of this, just reporting how some employees are using AI and they're achieving 6 times more productivity. And it's highlighting the need for daily AI integration. Yeah, you may see some jobs go away, but there are new jobs that will be needed, even though those others are going away. Looks like they're also discussing how the biggest gaps show up in technical work that used to require a specialist. So some technical work like coding, writing, and analysis. Now there's AI that actually has advanced so rapidly that there are gaps between the frontier workers and the medium workers. Some of the frontier workers they're saying are not doing the work as faster. There seems to be them doing it like entirely differently. And they're saying that they're expanding to technical domains that have not been previously inaccessible to them. So there's been a lot of improvements to not only technology, but people are stepping up their game when it comes to doing things that they could not typically or would not have been able to do now that artificial intelligence is out there to help them get to the end goal. They're also talking about how companies are divided, and it's just honestly, it's just something that you have to make sure that you're on top of. And even though there's a gap, you have to learn how to bridge that gap because the gap is going to be here for a while until everyone is on board. Yeah, it's pretty interesting though to understand like what's really going on out there. And it seems like they're saying that they're seeing more success with vendors that specialize in AI tools instead of internal builds that they're only reporting like a 1 in 3 success rate. So many organizations have actually seen more success rate going to vendors instead of building their things internally. So that's also just kind of letting you know there's some type of skill gap. Because of course, those people, those vendors that are out there, they're specializing in this. So they're day in and day out the same skill set. So they have what it takes to be able to succeed. That's something that you have to adopt in your business if you want to see the same type of success rate. Looks like they're also talking about some other things in technology about the behavior, company rollouts, and things in that nature. But you have to understand, you got to, whenever there's a new technology that's exploding and moving as fast as it is, you have to make sure that your company is up to date on how to stay up or keep up with the rest of the world. So we'll go ahead and move into cyber alerts. So in cyber alerts, there are rising threats out there. There are people that's doing smarter phishing. There are remote workers. There are safety measures that we have to understand. A lot of the phishing is targeting remote workers. So we're going to definitely talk about this in our cyber alert session. So since the discovery of different type of AI tools, it seems to be fueling a wave of cyber crimes. And the thing about it is, when you have rising threats, when you have artificial intelligence like we have now, and then you take that and you combine it with something that we're kind of like figuring out how to regulate it, you get these cyber crimes that are happening all over the place. Remember when phishing emails were easy to spot? Now, what they're doing is they're making the emails look like it's coming directly from the people that it say it's coming from. But you have to think ahead and know what, like, if you know you're not supposed to be getting an email from this person or that organization and you're getting one, 9 times out of 10, the first thing you need to do is check to see if it's a phishing attempt. Gone are the days where you could check by bad grammar, formatting, and it just anything typical. There's still some that are out there that's just like you just know this is a scam. But there are ones that are out there that looks like it's coming exactly from the person that it came from. And this is posing an issue because it's not regulated. There are places where you can go and report it. Like you can report it to the FTC. You can go on the website and report it there. You can even report it to your state. You can let them know as well. But now they're actually using AI for bad. What we're going to talk about is how AI technologies are lowering barriers for cyber criminals, making it easier than ever to execute attack and target unsuspecting victims. Honestly, you don't even have to be unsuspecting for them to target you in this day and age. And then here's a couple of different types of scams that are out there. And these are phishing scams. It's called the AI Phishing Factory. And what it is doing is talking about how there are phishing factories out there where they're becoming extremely sophisticated in utilizing AI to create realistic messages that deceive users and revealing sensitive information. But Stay on alert. It could look like it's coming from someone that you dealt with in the past, but 9 times out of 10, it's them trying to fish you. Three tools that they're actually talking about is Worm GPT. Think of Chat GPT, but without the ethical guardrails. And that's why I was talking about using artificial intelligence for bad. So what they're doing is in this particular phishing attempt is they're writing flawless, highly personalized business email compromise messages that sound exactly like the person that it came from. That is a problem, but you still have to stay on alert. Also, there's what they call fraud GPT, and they're calling this the Netflix of hacking, where it is a low monthly subscription. Attackers get a full suite of tools to write malicious code. Now, this is just out of line here. This is where governance has to come into play at some point. Like creating a this is what I'm talking about when I talk about how people are out there just scamming and coming up with full fledged operations from start to finish with businesses that are not ethical. They're doing this in the place of not being able to find a business to produce more income doing it ethically. These people are coming up with a whole business that allows you to scam by drafting emails. It's like hacking as a service, is what they're calling it. And it's a full suite of tools to be able to do that, creating scam landing pages, etc. You know what? And this is why you don't play into things that you really don't know, people that you really don't know. So if you haven't been connected with them and you don't really understand what it is that they're doing, be mindful. Even if you've been connected to them, understand what it is that they're doing and make the decision if you are comfortable with proceeding to whatever it is that they're offering. But a lot of times these people are scamming, and it's getting really bad out there, especially now that artificial intelligence is here. One other thing that I'm going to talk about is they're calling this spam GPT. And this acts as a high-end marketing automation tool, but for criminals. It allows attackers to A/B test their scams and deliver them at a volume that overwhelms standard detection limits. Now, this is wild. You have the time to create a high-end marketing automation tool to scam people. You don't have the time to create a legitimate business to try to obtain clients, but you have the time to do this. This is wild. That's why regulations definitely need to be in place when it comes to this. One thing you have to understand as well is you just have to understand how to detect and spot emails that are not right. Also, you have to detect and spot legitimate senders who, like, who should be sending you an email, who shouldn't be sending you one. If it's someone you don't know, definitely check with that person to see if they did it. 9 times out of 10, if they didn't do it, they're not going to respond to you. No, I take that back. 9 times out of 10, if they did do it, they may not respond to you. However, if they didn't do it, you might get a response, but you still have to be on alert either way, and use your better judgment and discernment to differentiate what's the truth from what is not. So some of the people that they're targeting lately is remote workers. So with the increase of remote workers, there are cyber criminals who are focusing specifically on home networks that are exploiting vulnerabilities to access corporate data. And this is a problem because they are tapping into this information using artificial intelligence. Last but not least, to combat this, there are rising threats. User must verify links. They must implement multi-factor authentication, and they must avoid opening unknown files. So these are a lot of the ways that these crimes happen. But yes, I just wanted to tap on that for just a little bit to have you be aware on how these people are finding new ways to scam people. So that's our cyber alert discussion of the week. So next we got our pay watch section. So in pay watch, we're going to talk about the wage divide and how it's growing due to AI and how it's disproportionately affecting low wage workers who are facing increasingly vulnerability in job security. And automation continues to reshape the workforce, which is you can go on LinkedIn right now and understand how job security is affecting people right now because it is a host of messages where people are talking about being laid off. Now, they're saying that since 2023, high wage salaries have risen more than 30%, while low wage salaries have only climbed about 10%, widening the divide. And they're saying artificial intelligence adoption rate in the low wage occupation were negatively correlated with the wage growth, but only weakly correlated with the wage growth for high wage roles per. Looks like this information was brought to us by Revelio. And they're saying that automation pressures and are disproportionately suppressing wage gains in lower paid roles, which is contrary to the narrative that AI is mostly impacting higher earners in white collar jobs. So I'll say that again. This suggests that automation pressures are disproportionately suppressing wage gains in lower paid roles, which is contrary to the narrative that AI is mostly impacting high earners. I didn't think for a second that high earners would be the major, like, affecting, like, AI would affect them more. I definitely thought immediately that people in lower paying roles that are really can be automated quickly would be more like affected more. It looks like they're saying that there is a strong demand now for high wage roles, and the postings for low wage positions have fallen steadily in the 2 years. And I definitely have noticed that out there where there is a like almost limited to none when it comes to lower wage positions. So this is just a sign to get your skills up. Make your skill set meet those high demand, high paying roles. And we all know that the automation has effective wage growth and repetitive tasks and machine learning systems are starting to perform those types of roles. And then they're saying it's like 12.6% of US roles are faced with a high risk or very high risk of near term displacement due to automation. And this was released by the SHRM company this year. And they're saying the most exposed groups are those with skill sets that emphasize highly routinized tasks that can increasingly be done, again, can be done by advanced robotics or software or things of that nature. And then it's also saying how half of the US is fear of job displacement due to AI. And what is like doubling the levels of that's been recorded since last year. That is wild as well. And this survey information is actually brought to you by KPMG. And then they're saying that AI adoption accelerates, these divergences may grow sharper, and there will be once again strongly increasing wage inequities. Definitely can see how a wage divide would happen based on this widening of AI in the different industries, expecting low wage workers increasingly. So keep that in mind, guys, how you can circumvent being affected by lower wage workers that are facing their jobs being taken away due to automation. So we will move on to senior engineer pay. So the average salary of a senior backend engineer now ranges from 50,000 to 70,000, highlighting global competition and shifting perceptions of seniority in today's evolving landscape. Looks like Proton AI is recruiting for a senior engineer that's a back-end engineer. And we'll go ahead and move along into our opportunities since we're talking about the different pay. So there is a role that's out there by Contra called a creative engineer. And this creative engineer role looks like it pays between $75, I believe it's $75 and $150 an hour. I'm just checking here. It looks like this is a contract role as well. Yeah, they are actually saying that it pays between 75 and 150 typically. They're also talking about a contra role that is a product designer. And the product designer role looks like it typically pays between 75 and 150 an hour as well. But yep, those are some of the opportunities that are out there in tech. If you are interested, and to wrap this up for today, in today's segment, we actually talked about our tech and AI in our tech and AI session. We talked about how AI is required and then integration of AI work into processes is essential. We also talked about how regulation increases transparency. New state regulations ensure fairness in the hiring practices. We also talked about how power users win. AI power users demonstrate significantly higher productivity levels. And then cybercrime is rising, and increased AI capabilities lead to a surge in cyber threats, especially for remote workers. And we did talk about some opportunities, like Contra has new roles that they're offering that are competitive in the pay for the tech sector. We did talk about how the wage divide is growing and it's impacting low wage workers severely. So get your skills up, get out there and make sure you're making it happen for yourself, because AI is most definitely impacting the low wage workers. With that being said, again, I want to thank you all for listening to Tech Money Diaries, where we talk about the real tech, real money, and real life. Again, this is Tech Money Diaries podcast, and I do want to give you one more quick summary of what we actually talked about. So, we just wanted to give you some takeaways for this segment today. AI isn't just here or coming, should I say, it's here. So it's also shaping the job market fast. So you have to stay competitive. You need to become an AI power user yourself. Integrate these tools into your daily workflows to boost productivity and stay ahead of the curve rather than being left behind. These are some things that you can do. Now, of course, check with your company to see if that's something that you can do so that you are approved or not. AI regulations are hitting the ground running, especially in areas like hiring. So if you're a freelancer or a job seeker, expect more transparency in how AI is used to evaluate you. This is a good thing. So just keep on demanding how these systems work and advocate for fairness. While AI might bring job cuts in some areas, it's also opening up new high paying opportunities in AI, validation, and improvement. So companies like Contra are actively seeking creative evaluators at excellent hourly rates. Look for these gigs out there. Your expertise is valuable in shaping the future of AI. With AI lowering the bar for cybercrime, your digital vigilance is, vigilance is needed to be at an all-time high. So seriously, double check every suspicious link and email. Don't click on anything, especially if you don't know that it's from they said it's from. So protecting your digital assets and income is more critical now than ever before. Again, this is Tech Money Diaries, the podcast where we talk about real tech, real money, and real life. Thank you all for listening in to this week's weekly roundup. And for more insights, please subscribe, like, and comment to Tech Money Diaries. And you all have a great rest of your day. Again, thank you for listening.